Do you see there was talk about, after Bill Morneau leaves, Chrystia Freeland would do things differently. She would go places that Bill Morneau was not willing to go. Do you see her fingerprints in that sense? Either of you?
I mean, on the one side, right, she was quite an opponent of inequality. There's very little here on the tax side. I mean, there's the luxury tax and the digital services tax, but those are extremely limited. I guess that's probably a function of the election, that you just don't want to go into an election with a bunch of big taxes hanging over your head. There's no rush to consolidate, to rapidly reduce deficits. I mean, even though deficits do decline pretty quickly, I mean, there have basically every year going forward. And so maybe that's the fingerprint that she leaves on this, is that there's no tremendous worry about deficits per se, taking up more the mantra that the incredibly low interest rates means that despite all of this, we're still spending less as a percentage of GDP on interest payments than we've spent in a century, right? Which, maybe illustrates how much we can and should be using these low interest rates.
I think that might be the difference. We've had a change in both the minister and the deputy since the last budget. And I think what that's meant is that the fiscal anchor got softened. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think the willingness to kind of go for the signature measures instead of something incremental. We've seen previous budgets with a lot of sprinkling all over the place. We haven't seen kind of the deliberate focus on these kind of transformative elements. So particularly with respect to childcare and some of the innovation measures. So, to me, that's maybe a little bit different. I think they may have held the line with the previous deputy and the previous minister fiscally than this government. And I think this minister committed to kind of that, at least a pivot towards a transformative budget. And I think I have a hard time imagining that previous combination being able to drive that kind of transformative thing. I still don't think it's transformative on many dimensions. It's a transformation on childcare and some important pivots on others. But it will require successive governments and budgets to kind of breathe life into those pivots.